Okay. I'm so Hi, everybody. I'm Ed Salamon. Thank you all for coming, and I appreciate you coming out. Although I've said to a couple people, it's a lot like when I had that band that's pictured in the book that played for the KQB record hops. We got as many people up here on the stage as we do in the audience, but I appreciate you coming. A couple people in the audience, if you don't know, I'd like to introduce to you. When I was at KDK Radio as music director, there was a guy who used to be an independent promotion man, and he would take all of these small labels that didn't seem to have a chance in heck of getting played on commercial radio stations, but he just had such a passion for the music that things would break through. One of the records he promoted was a song Viva Torado by El Chicano. It was on a little label, Gordo Records, and he broke it in Pittsburgh. It became a big enough hit. It went on to go on a big label, Cap Records, and become a national hit. Another one of his successes breaking in this market was Pillow Talk by Sylvia. Hugh Babe O'Donnell, who later became Wave. And Hugh became later a hand man for Porky Chidwick for a lot of years. And I think he still do car cruises and play the songs and bring your classic cars.
Frankie's home.
And that, a man who keeps the oldies alive 44 hours a week. Nobody, I don't think, in the history of radio had played oldies on a station 44 hours a week, but this man does it, has a great love of the music, and has done a great job promoting our book, Frankie Days. And then the gentleman, I figured that I'm not all that interesting to talk to, so I figured what I would do would try to talk some of my friends into joining me tonight, and I was very fortunate in having some of the radio greats that are pictured in the book to talk a little radio with us all tonight. Starting at the end, and none of these guys really need an introduction, I think, but I'm going to introduce them anyhow. The guy that I worked with at my first radio job at KDKA, and he was named one of the top 5 morning men by USA Today, and mornings are the prime time for radio. He does a thing called mental movies, where he really does a theater of the mind, where a lot of people talk about radio as theater of the mind, and nobody does that better than WJAS morning personality Jim Logan. A distinguished gentleman in the center is a guy who's pictured in the book when he worked at WAMO-FM, one of the first progressive rock radio stations in the country. Pittsburgh radio has had such an influence, not only on all of us who grew up listening to it, but also all over the country. People were emulating these gentlemen on the air, and certainly emulated the format of Whammo FM, where he was known as Frank the Freak. He's pictured in the book. Today he goes by his real name, Frank Gottlieb. He's the news director at KQB News Radio. Please welcome Frank Gottlieb. And then this man is such a legend. I don't know where to start with him. He has worked at radio stations around Pittsburgh. He's worked in Chicago too, but the thing that I like to say about him is he is arguably the first top 40 disc jockey in Pittsburgh, because the first top 40 radio station was WEEP, and he was the first top 40 disc jockey to do that format in Pittsburgh when it was a new format. Pittsburgh wasn't the first city to have a top 40 radio station, but it was one of the first. And a lot of people came into town and would listen to what this man did. He later went on to pioneer talk radio, and likewise, people would fly into town from radio stations all across the country to hear what he was doing on talk radio and emulate it. He was part of the KQV 13Q battle, just so many things. Please welcome Perry Marshall. So let me start asking you a couple questions. First of all, there's a great picture in the book, which you provided me, of you and Dave James. Tell me a little bit about what was happening that day and what the significance of that picture.
We used to have an annual cow chip chucking contest. And one time Ben Crenshaw, the golfer, who won the Masters among other things, was going to be in town, and because I knew that he had been a Southern boy, I invited him to do two things. One, to see if he could drive a golf ball across the Allegheny River over to Three River Stadium. And for competition, I had Jack Ham and Franco Harris there. And then as kind of a pleasant surprise, if he could not do that, I invited him to participate in a cow chip chucking contest. And I prevailed upon some listeners, I think out in Hickory, Pennsylvania, which is nice farm country, to come up with some real honest to goodness, legitimate cow chips. And they brought them in a plain brown wrapper, as I recall. And Dave James was heard to say, you know, I should back up a little bit. Cow chips are the forerunners of Frisbees. You'll remember that for the rest of your lives, right? When we were kids, we used to burn cow chips because it's a legitimate fuel. And the farther you got from the wagon, which we would use to haul these things, you would have to throw them. And they would sail like, you know, a coffee can lid or whatever it was. So we used to just pitch these things. So that was the genesis of these cow chip chucking contests. And one time, you have to throw it like a Frisbee, and you have to droop it down on the left-hand side when you throw it, because then it will right itself and curve the other way. And I miscalculated, and it curved away from its intended track and went into the crowd. And Dave James said, for the first time in recorded radio history, the chip hit the fan. And that is the picture.
That is the picture
that's in the book.